This is a response video or reply to others video for Project 11, which is Luck and My Name is Red. Okay, so first, I'm replying to Nathaniel Thomas. And, okay. So he starts off first with the introduction, which is nice, but also his first moment that he speaks about of Luck in the novel is Shakur and Black's like relationship. So Shakur 12 and Black's 24. So their age gap. When he first starts liking her, yes, that is true that they not only are cousins but also they are 12 years apart, and her being 12, which is technically underage nowadays, and 24, and he's a full-grown adult. So, first off, Nathaniel speaks about how he seems like a predator, especially now, like in this current time and period. Yes, that is like now seen as not only incestual, but predatorial. So, he explains that in that time and culture, that was kind of normal. Not only like kind of incest of a sorts, but also yes, that like predatorial kind of like relationships was normal. And so he explains that like he was lucky that he was in the time and place that he was in, and that Nigel would also say that it was like circumstantial luck that Black ended up where he was. That doesn't really make it right though. But yeah, it was normalized in that time period. And so that's the first thing. Then he talks about Shakur's missing husband. So Black still pursues Shakur, and then the vice versa. So even though Shakur's husband is still missing or presumed dead, but is still technically missing, it hasn't been confirmed yet. So Nathaniel talks about how he's lucky that they're lucky that the circumstances ended up the way they did. Shakur and Black didn't control what had happened. Like, I guess how Shakur's husband went missing, they didn't really control that. That was out of their control. They couldn't control, like, the fact that they can't find him, or, like, they don't know where he is. Like, they don't have an updated, I guess, status report of him. And, yeah. They still, though, have to look at the moral side, though, and if what they're doing is right, though they couldn't control that part, they still can technically choose if they want to love each other or not necessarily, or be in a relationship with each other. The last thing he talks about is Inishde asking Black to help with the secret book. So, like, he explains, this is definitely a different perspective, though. I never even thought about it like this. And so he talks about how, like, he's looking at, like, why would you ask your nephew to help with a book, even though you know, like, some of the dangers and circumstances, like the murder that has already occurred. And so he explains, though, Inishde did not choose for someone to get murdered. It's unfortunate that it just happened to align at the same times. Next person I'm going to respond to is Belle Arguello. Okay. I like her introduction and explaining everything. So she first talks about Black and Shakur, also like Nathaniel. It's not normal to her or to Belle, and it's not normal to me either, so I have to agree with that. It's like both of us, though, think about how, like, even if you know the circumstances, it's still wrong. It's still not necessarily right, and though that might just be because of how we were, like, raised in this time period, it's still quite eccentric. It's quite odd. She thinks Miguel wouldn't see this as a bad thing, and that's technically true. He would see this circumstantially, like the circumstantial luck. They couldn't control that, like, it's just luck that they happen to be in the time period, and that's technically seen as normal. So yeah, that's how you would look at it. Next is Esther reading Shakur's letter. She thinks Esther shouldn't have read the letter. And I have to agree. Like, even if Esther could technically read, she shouldn't be in everybody's business, unfortunately. So she shouldn't have read it, because that's not what she was, that's not her job. She's just supposed to deliver the letter. It's not like you want your mailman to open up your letters and read them, right? So, like, that's a violation of your privacy. So, she thinks Nigel would agree with her, and they both would say that it's not out of pure intentions, so that's why it's wrong. The next thing is Shakur's brother-in-law. So yes, he did try to assault her, and I think actually did. So it's wrong. He tries to justify by saying, like, oh, maybe like for security, maybe like Hassan, well, this is his name, but Hassan is doing it for himself and not Shakur. That is what Bella is explaining, and she thinks that Nigel would think the same. Overall, I like her little summary / overview at the end, and I just liked her video in general. Next is Ashley Rame, and Shakur's marriage and survival is the first thing she talks about. So she explains how some might call her manipulative, Shakur, which is wrong in my opinion, but she, like, not necessarily that. I'm just saying, like, why would people call her that? I think that in general is wrong, not Ashley's opinion. But she explains how Shakur doesn't control the fact that a woman with her reputation and security depends on her marriage. And that was an interesting take by Ashley. That was very different. So then she also explains how some would technically, like, judge Shakur for moving on as well. And she explains that Nigel would call this circumstantial luck. And she agrees with that. Next is Black's return in love. This is, all of hers were kind of like different opinions, especially from the two previous people I responded to. So, mercy. Why is my face so red? So next is Black's return. Black's return in love. So, like, he still returned is what she's explaining. She actually explains, like, he's still returning even though the dangers, he knows he's ignoring the dangers and chaos that is going on around, and he's still going to pursue it. So she explains that Nigel said it's resultant luck. So Black's luck shaped a lot of things, and like how his story could have been a lot more tragic if it wasn't on his side, is what she kind of explains. And the last thing is the murder and his killings. I also talk about the murder. So some will see it as pure evil, but also as understandable considering his background, his religion, the time they're in. Like, kind of how tradition shapes everything in their world. So, like, yeah, how he was brought up. Constitutive luck is kind of what she explains it as well, and what Nigel would explain it as. And so the murderer is doing it because he believes it's right, or that's kind of what he does think. He does think he's doing it for right, and he's trying to convince himself as well as us, the readers. Overall, she agrees with Nigel most of the time. So overall, I did like all the videos. So yeah, that was the response.